Greetings petrolheads, welcome back to Automation, the car company tycoon game. Today I'm actually pretty excited to show you guys the 4th generation of the Marina Spark. Why am I excited to show you this? Or it's the 5th, excuse me. that proves the point even more. Because it uses this coupe body shell, which for a long time has used to be my favorite body shell in the game. I think now there are even cooler ones, but for a long time, especially like before the Steam release and the Steam Workshop came out, this was pretty much the coupe body shell for me to go. And in particular, this smaller version of it with the 2.51 meters of wheelbase. So exactly like you're seeing it right here. And right. I tried to make the best of it for a late 80s car. We got a steel space frame, we got fiberglass panels, we got double wishbones all around and longitudinal engine placement. No real news here. We got pop-up headlights, indicators right beneath them, some decently sized round fog lights with some vents between these ones that hold the fog lights and the number plate, and then a big center grille and a bonnet hump. So that makes up the front. Pretty much, I think you could say on the front, this is what an 80s Dodge Viper could have looked like. I think you could say that with a 480. And on the rear we have some pretty simplistic tail lights with the reverse lights integrated into the whole arrangement. I think that gives it a cleaner look. We got some vents to make it look a little bit meaner, and also because this entire area would have been empty otherwise. And we got two pretty big exhausts, two red braking lights, and that sums up the design of this car. Which I think for the 80s it looks just, for an 80s sports car it looks just right in my opinion. I would buy this car on the used market if it ever existed. You could probably hear that fly, but excuse me, sorry. But the color here, the color choice is also a unique color that I don't think I've chosen yet, but I have on this car. I think it looks really good on it. And let's get to the engines. Now I was asked to build a sort of competitor to the Mercedes 190E, to the 190 Evo, and essentially also to the M3 E30 is what you're saying with that, because those two cars, they were the principal rivals of the late 80s, really. That's what it came down to, M3 versus 190 Evo. And both of these cars had a naturally aspirated inline-4 with around 2.3 liters of capacity. Both of them were 16 valves, both of them revved pretty high, both of them made around 200 horsepower, in some versions slightly below it, in some versions slightly above it. And yeah, so we created this engine. Very good internals. We actually needed to improve the quality of the bottom end as well, so that it could handle the revs, the very high revs. Plus 10 quality in the head section as always. Moderately aggressive cam profile. Don't need any more. Naturally aspirated, of course. Multi-point EFI, throttle per cylinder configuration, performance intake, because this thing is supposed to go. This thing is supposed to be really responsive. And it is. Responsiveness is at 42.9, which for a multi-point injection engine is actually pretty damn good. Rev limit sits at 7500 RPM. And yeah, we have raised tubular headers because so did the M3's engine. Not quite sure about the 190 Evo's engine, but I'm assuming it may have used race tubular headers as well. But I don't know it for certain. Yeah, so 200 horsepower, 159 pound-feet of torque, and the engine weighs just 117 kilograms, so it's very, very good power for the weight that it makes. We got a 5-speed manual gearbox with a viscous limited slip differential, just to help put down the power and to allow for some nice drifts. We got 205mm tires all around, and that is exactly the thing that you're gonna be seeing this car doing, is drifting, because even with this N94 we're making 26% wheel spin. And that is intended. This is supposed to be a sports car that's about fun, not necessarily just about performance. We got vented discs up front, solid discs on the rear. I mean, I may as well choose vented discs on the rear too, because yes, they're a little bit more expensive, but they're better and also lighter. Let's see how much that would add to the costs. Well, this would actually reduce costs overall. Yeah, probably, or it would stay pretty much the same. Yeah, okay, let's go with this then. We have sport interior, 2 seats, standard cassette. Didn't want to go with 8 tracks when cassettes were around. That made you really uncool if your car had 8-track infotainment, 8-track system when cassettes were already available in other cars. Just like today, when if your new car doesn't have a USB port, like who does that these days? Standard springs, gas monotube dampers, and a pretty damn sporty suspension setup with low ride height. You can see 1.9 degree roll angle, which is really low, unless we're talking about like supercars that are made from carbon fiber, because the carbon fiber is even stiffer. It'll roll even less. But so with this we get 5.9 seconds 0 to 100, 264 kilometers an hour top speed. Weight is still under 1,000 kilograms, and yeah, let's see what it does on a quarter mile. Pulls pretty nicely for a 4-cylinder. 14.4. Really good. Let's see what this does around the automation track. $224.3, that's actually not bad at all. Wow. Okay. So what does this cost you then? Oh, I haven't messed with the things yet. We'll do that a little bit later, after I introduce the V8 version. Yes, there is going to be a V8 version of this thing. As you can already tell, this looks a little bit more aggressive. It has... Wait, does the inline-4 engine have a lip on the front? I don't think it does it? Oh, yes, it does. And I forgot to mention that earlier. But the V8 version also gets a wing on the rear. That's pretty much the only aesthetic difference. But obviously the main difference is under the bonnet. It is a new 4-liter flat-plane V8. 4 valves per cylinder. All forged components. 63 cam profile. Plus 10 quality. Multi-point EFI, but with a single configuration and not a throttle per cylinder. Because I don't know. I just like the look of this intake section. It's also really compact this way, so you could fit it in a lot of cars. 95 octane fuel, 7300 RPM rev limit. We don't need any more in this thing. And actually, we could run this on regular fuel now that I think about it. Why didn't I do that? Or I could increase compression to give us some more power. 348, can we get... Nah, I don't think I need this much power in this engine. Let's run it on regular fuel. 335 horsepower is already more than the last generation of this engine made, which was the 4.2 liter with 300 horsepower. And 275 pound-feet of torque is certainly not too shabby either. And this also gets a 5-speed manual, but with a geared limited slip diff, plus 5 quality in here. It gets 225 on tires all around with 17-inch rims. Still sport compound tires. It will get vented discs all around. Yeah, didn't change that beforehand. It'll get a fully clad under tray with some downforce actually. And I was intentionally making it so that the front would make more downforce than the rear, because I personally prefer if a car makes a lot of front downforce, because that'll help with the turning in, as opposed to the rear end, which will make the back a little bit more stable. Obviously, you need a little bit of both if you want to build a performance car like this, but I prefer having more on the front than on the rear. And then, but that may also be just me. You know, if you have not very much front downforce, a lot of rear downforce, then your car may understeer, but the tail will almost never break loose. As opposed to when you have a lot of front downforce and almost no rear downforce, then the car might end up being pretty tail happy, but you're gonna have really sharp turning. So we have a little bit more front than rear, which would mean that this car turns pretty nicely. And the tail, yeah, sure, this car can drift, let's put it that way. This is all still the same, still no driving assists in 1987. Still a very sporty setup here, and the same ride height as well. This does roll slightly more than the inline 4 because we are carrying more weight. Still not very much weight, but more weight than the inline 4. And this will do the automation track in 217.4. And that's the power right there. That's the main difference. There's the power and also the downforce. We are not making much of it, but we are making some downforce, so the car gets more and more stable the faster it goes. How fast does it go? 290 kilometers an hour. That's 180 miles per hour. Certainly not bad. As you could hear from the tire squeal in the third gear, we are still making quite a lot of wheel spin, because, well, 225s all around, and we make 335 horsepower. What is it that made our acceleration worse? Was it the fact that we chose... Yeah, the brakes are actually lighter. The vented discs. So apparently the one piston vented discs are lighter by a big enough amount that it'll actually make the acceleration time worse because of the difference in weight distribution. So they actually make enough of a difference there. What if I choose slightly longer gearing? Do we make less wheel spin? A little bit less, yeah, but what if I do this? That's 5.6, 5.5. I still don't want that though. Let's give it a little bit, or let's give it 235s all around. Yeah, 235s all around. I'm making sure that we have same size tires all around, so that not only do we have a car where you can swap tires from the front to the rear if the rear are in a little bit worse condition than the front, which they typically are on these cars, but also so that you know, we make good turning. You know, the wider the front tires are, the better you turn in. This is actually, I think this is a really good setup for a sporty car that is not meant for ideal track times, but rather for, you know, some performance, but also a good dose of fun, is to make the tires the same width on both ends, so you get really nice turning in, and you would still be able to put down the power enough. Well, then again, what do I know with 44.8% wheel spin? But in any case, we will set up our employees. So basically, first of all, we want a space frame expert, and we want a yeah, let's take this guy as our secondary project leader. Then let's take the second space frame expert. Let's take this guy, and let's take somebody else here. Good with chassis, good with, or decent with body, decent with suspension. That's a pretty nice combination. Or here we would have, is there somebody else good here? Yeah, let's take her. We want to make this pretty efficient and somewhat reliable. This one can also be a little bit more reliable. No limited production necessary, I don't think. Let us take a naturally aspirated tuning expert, and also a dual overhead cams expert as our two project leaders here, because both engines are naturally aspirated and have dual overhead cam setups. I want the V8 master, I want the NN4 master, and I want the forge expert. Sure. Now, what do we do? This is what the for which one is this? Then this is for one engine, this is for another engine. Okay, so the first one is going to be for the V8. So for the V8 we really only need, first of all, small, that would mean about 5,000 cars per year. I think the Spark might sell a little bit more because it's usually affordable. So let's take a medium factory. That's certainly enough. So we will probably build more inline-4s than V8s. Let's just face it. Let's get, yeah, sure, 39.9 to 13.8. Okay. So that means we are going to produce. That's per day or what? Oh. Let's decrease the shift so that we make less and increase the quality threshold. 75. 75. Now we make 6.6 cars per day. Although, you know what? We could just keep this at 1.5 and then increase the shifts on the engine. So we now make 6 engines per day. We will crank up the shifts. What about 2.5? Now we make 7.6 engines per day. We make 9 now. Let's go back here. Let's set this to like 90 so that only the best cars leave our factory, and then we can also decrease this a little bit. Okay, and yeah, now we're making 9 cars. We're also making 9 engines per day. And then the other engine, the inline-4, that might get put into other cars in the future. What if I do this? That would... Oh yeah, it takes the current setting here. So what if I go down to 2.0, which is the default setup? I think this was it. So that's 26, that's 84. If I'm gonna use the large factory plot, I need to produce more cars that have inline-4 engines. But I think I will. Yeah. So this only... Wait. Okay. Yeah, we will produce a lot of inline-4 engines that we don't need necessarily for this car, for the Spark, but there will be other inline-4 cars coming. Yeah, for like $20,500 in today's money, you could have a 200 horsepower front-engined rear-wheel drive coupe from the 80s that does 0 to 100 faster than a Subaru BRZ/Toyota GT86. It also goes faster in top speed, I think. And it should be faster not only on a quarter mile, but perhaps also on a small track, although of course the effort track does not measure times correctly in the game. And I don't really know the times for... I mean, you could... I'm gonna run it, I'm gonna test it on Laguna Seca, and you guys can then tell me what it does, what the BRZ/GT86 did here, and then we can compare the two. So this thing does it in 152.6 basically, rounded up. 152.58. The sector 3 time is the flying lap here. It's not that bad, I think, for an 80s car with a 4-cylinder. Yeah, could be worse. Let's also see what the V8 would do around Laguna Seca. Obviously, it's going to be faster. $146.57, so that's 6 seconds faster. I don't know. I would take one of these if I could find one in the real world used car market, but you know, obviously. Yeah, so what do you think about the Spark Mark V? I hope you guys enjoyed the episode. Leave a like or a comment if you did. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.